Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Friday, June 26th. And yes, it really is Friday this time. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr, and today I'm joined by Mick Walker. He's one of our recruiting analysts for BuckeyeScoop.com. Mick, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me. Happy to talk some basketball and wrestling now.
Well, Mark and Alex and Bill have all been busy covering the reopening of high school football workouts and various prospects on the football side. Mick has been all over the place on the basketball recruiting beat, especially in the last week or two. Wanted to kind of touch base and give people an update on a number of prospects that you've seen there. One of your recent trips was to see Michi Johnson. He is a point guard committed to Ohio State's 2021 recruiting class who is working his way back from a pretty serious knee injury. What can you tell us about his recovery and where he is headed into his senior season right now?
Yeah, so Michi originally tore his ACL, I believe it was the March or the February of his sophomore season. And with that timeline, the 9 months is typically what they put on an ACL injury with recovery and everything. He likely could have played last season, at least for the back half of it, but his father and him decided to hold him out of that, and in hopes that they would get to play him this season when it comes to AAU basketball. But obviously, with the COVID-19 pandemic outbreak, he was not actually able to get on the court for the EYBL Nike circuit until this past Saturday when their Indy Heat Gym Rats team hosted a tournament-like event. And obviously, I mean, we wrote a story about it earlier this week, and then I put some highlights in that, and then I retweeted some more recent highlights. But Michi, from everybody I've talked to, everybody loved how Michi played. I didn't get to watch much of him, but I know from the some that I did see in the highlights, he's fully healthy, and that's what he told me. Not only is he fully healthy, but he's also up to now a chiseled 6'3" frame and up to about 175 pounds, where he was around 150 before injury. And he mentioned that in a YouTube video I posted yesterday, talking about how he really worked on building up leg strength, which is what helped prevent any further knee injuries. But from talking to him, when I got to talk to him on Thursday, he was very happy to be back and be able to be back and moving. And he's just really somebody I think once he gets playing and once things heat up, he'll be even more of a big recruiter in the class. He already mentioned a few guys like Efton Reed that he's recruiting already, and those are definitely just people he wants to he's recruiting hard.
You also talked to Michi's AAU coach, and he had some really positive things to say about him as a team leader. What did you hear about him kind of as an on and off the court leader for his team?
Yeah, Coach Delaney he coaches at Cathedral High School and over in Indianapolis, but he's also the 17U coach for the Indy Heat team. And as he put it in the article, he coached CJ Walker, who's Ohio State's current point guard. And when he was in high school, he said that CJ was the best leader that he ever saw or he ever coached. And Michi actually showed some tendencies and some actions that fall in line with CJ. And from talking to Michi myself and just seeing how he interacts because when I saw him, he was working out with his trainer and a few actually, I believe, junior high kids. But they were just sort of there to help him give looks and everything. And he was coaching them up between reps and telling them, hey, I'm trying to get better. I need you to step it up and get better. He just has a very infectious personality, infectious smile, and he's a very hard worker when it comes to all this. So I think that's what really – he just makes guys around him want to be better, not only with the way he plays, but also just his personality. That's really what it is.
One of Michi's AAU teammates is also going to be a teammate of his at Ohio State. Kalin Etzler is another 2021 Ohio State basketball commit. What have you seen out of Kalin recently?
Yeah, Kalin also debuted, and Kalin's in that Indy Heat team. They have about 3 or 4 guys that are in Kalin's height range between the 6'6" to 6'8" range that play in the forward in the post area. So really, because of that, Kalin's worked hard to become more of a better ball handler, a better shooter, and to sort of expand his game and to be a versatile forward instead of just a back to the basket forward, which you would already need to add more weight. So that's something he's working on, just becoming more versatile, but also adding the weight to be a very good post player when he gets to Ohio State. And he, by all accounts, he looked exactly how people thought he was going to look this weekend, and he looked good.
That takes care of the class of 2021. Last Monday opened up the contact period for coaches to talk to 2022 basketball recruits. You have a whole bunch of names that you've seen in the last week. Who are the 2022 names that Ohio State fans should be keeping an eye on right now?
Obviously, I think the big one in Central Ohio that's going to get a ton of run is Sean Jones. He's the Hannah point guard. He's a very good player. Him, Paul McMillan, a guy I also saw that last Thursday when I was out. DJ Moore. There's about 4 or 5 different point guards on 2022 that are very talented. Ohio State is looking at it, and they've taken the laid back approach of we want to see them all again, either on AAU or in the winter of next season, to really see who we're going to offer it. Because I think I get the sense from talking to these guys, but also I think Ohio State sees it that whoever they offer will be the guy that they get in 2022. And that's really what they're doing with Sean Jones, Paul McMillan. Besides the point guards, Bowen Hardman was a guy that I was supposed to see this weekend. I'll probably likely see next week when I make another trip. But he was in contact with Coach Peden and other guys, Coach Diebler over at Ohio State, just hearing from him. Another guy, Josiah Harris, also heard Ohio State offered him a few months ago in 2022 at Richmond Heights in Ohio. He's a guy that heard from Ohio State. I saw a few different guys. Roger Coffey up in Northeast Ohio is a very talented shooter that heard from Ohio State. Sean Phillips is a big name that I got to see this weekend at the Wildcat Select workout that was in contact with Ohio State and is very interested in the program that Ohio State has. He's working through getting back into shape and getting on quarantine. I got a piece out yesterday detailing what I saw from Sean this past weekend, so you can go check that out on Buckeye Scoop. And another huge 2022 name that I have yet to mention is Chris Livingston. I got to see him when I was out on the road, and he's another person that heard from Ohio State, heard from Coach Holtmann, heard from practically the entire staff, because a guy of his caliber, a 5-star, top 3 player in the country, is warranting that much attention. He heard from the whole staff. Obviously, with a big name like him, they're putting in a lot of effort, and they're giving it their best shot.
One more name that you wrote about on Thursday, a guy from one of the great high school nicknames in all of the country, Isaac McNeely from Poca, West Virginia, POCA. They are the Poca Dots. That is the nickname for their high school. 2022 wing. What can you tell us about Isaac?
Yeah, Isaac was I said it in my Twitter thread that I posted from Saturday. I said it in my article. He's just some basketball players have a feel for the game, a natural way that they play, where they don't get sped up, they don't look like everything they do on the basketball court looks natural. And Isaac's definitely one of those guys. He's a very talented shooter. Even though Bowen wasn't there, Bowen is supposed to play with Isaac on the Wildcat Select 17U team, which is a grade up from where they would typically play. And they that was mainly the talk, was how do Bowen and Isaac compare, and how would they be able to play together? And I mean, I haven't got to see Bowen. Like I said, I'm hoping to see him next week. But just seeing Isaac, I mean, he's lights out from on the perimeter. He can bring the ball up. He can place him 1. He can place him 2. But he's just an all-around natural basketball player that looked really good this Saturday. And Ohio State has been in contact with him, and he actually got to visit during this past winter when they had it for a game day before everything got shut down.
So that covers 2022. This seems ridiculous. 2023, it seems like we should all have flying cars by the time 2023 rolls around. But let's talk a little bit of 2023 basketball recruiting. Who are kind of the names to know for that class? Those guys are going into their sophomore year, so we're a little ways away. But who are the 2023 names that people should at least sort of have in mind?
For basketball, the names that Ohio State fans should really get to know, first off, is Vaughn Griffith out of Taft High School in Cincinnati. He came in, he played against Bronny James, LeBron James' son, as an 8th grader when they were all coming up last year during their AAU season. And really, he took off. He had a great freshman year. And he's just an amazing athlete that can do a little bit of everything on the court and just needs a little bit of refinement. And when he does get that, he's already ranked as a top 20 player in the country for early 2023 rankings, and he can only go up with the potential he has. Another name I want to mention is Marlon Barnes out of Brush High School. I think those two are the guys that are really competing for the top spot in 2023 so far. Marlon's probably the better shooter of the two, but Vaughn is probably the better athlete and has a little more toughness. But those two will be guys that are both competing against. And one other 2023 that Ohio State has shown contact with his coaches actually is Laurent Rice out of Huber Heights Wayne High School. He's a big 6'3" point guard that is a very good athlete, has a ton of upside.
Before we let you go, I want to talk a little bit of wrestling. One of my favorite moments from the first couple weeks of BuckeyeScoop.com. We launched just a little over 3 weeks ago, and very early on our Ask the Insiders board, someone commented on I think a recruiting thread that you had been writing in or something, and said, hey, the football and the basketball is great, but I kind of want some wrestling. Can you guys do a little bit of wrestling coverage? And then lo and behold, a couple days later, boom, there's an interview with Seth Shumate posted on the site that you wrote. And you've also talked maybe a week or so later with Patty Gallagher. So you've already written a couple wrestling recruiting articles as well. What is Coach Tom Ryan getting with those two guys?
Off the cuffs, he's getting the top two wrestlers in Ohio, probably regardless of class, but in the 2021 class and 2022 class specifically. Seth's in 2022 and Patty's in 2021. But Patty's a very, very stout, very strong, very finesse-built middleweight, and he told me he's going to wrestle around 157 pounds. But if you looked at him, I don't know if you could tell me he's going to weigh 157 pounds. That's just how cut and how good he looks. But when it comes to his actual ability on the mat, he's just very natural, and he uses that strength for his size very well. And he was chasing a second, he's chasing a second state title this past year before everything got shut down. And he even despite ending the season early, he still won the most outstanding wrestler award for Ohio. And then for Seth, he was chasing his second title in 2 years and was for his goal of being a 4-time state champion at the upper weights in Division I of Ohio, which is, if you were to ask wrestling fans, Division I in Ohio is probably one of the top 5 just classes of Ohio wrestling across the whole wrestling across the whole country, whether it's Pennsylvania, other Midwest states. Ohio Division I is one of the top levels to compete at, and Seth won it as a freshman, 195 pounds. He was set to win it again as 195 pounds as a sophomore. And I think the plan is to wrestle around 125 pounds to 220 pounds as a junior this coming season. And obviously he's hoping to at least be a 3-timer now, and he's just working on getting, both of them are now working on getting junior world team titles. That way they can go out and compete against not just the best in their country, but the best in the world. So that's really what their focus is now.
Mick, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time. I know it's hard to catch you standing still at any point. I'm glad we got 15 minutes or so where you were not in the car going to see some other high school football or basketball or wrestler. We appreciate you taking the time. If you want to read more from Mick, you can find it at BuckeyeScoop.com. He obviously has been quite busy the last few weeks and mentioned some stuff that he's got coming out in the next week as well. You can find that all at BuckeyeScoop.com, where there's a lot of great free content. And there's plenty more insight analysis and insider reports inside our members section. If you want to have access to all of that, including our Ask the Insiders board, just sign up before July 4th, and you can be part of the Founders Club. That you receive all your normal benefits of being a member, plus some access to some great additional perks. And that is never going to be available after July 4th. So if you were thinking about it, if you think, hey, this might be something that I want to think about doing, do it before July 4th, and you will get some additional benefits you will not be able to get after that. So thank you guys for listening. Make sure you find us on Apple Podcasts or your podcast app of choice. You can subscribe there, rate, and review us. And you can find all the great shows on the Buckeye Scoop Podcast Network. Just search Buckeye Scoop. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you on Monday.